Spenser.
Hi, Brandon.
How are you?
Doing good. How are you?
I'm good. I am good. The sun is shining and, well, not as much as yours, California sun, but
Yeah, hard to compete.
but it is happening. I'm so excited to chat with you today. You had a very rigorous childhood training, a very
hmm
specific training. We danced together in college, and then you went away and danced for a long time in Europe. Now you're teaching at a university. You have such a signature style, and what I really love about your teaching philosophy is it's really infused from all of your different perspectives and all of your different professional experiences. So I'm excited to talk a little bit further about how that affects your teaching and your creative practices. So
Yeah, I'm excited.
cool. Why don't we start at the beginning? Tell us where you grew up, how you started dancing, and that journey for you.
Yeah, so I grew up in a place called Vancouver, Washington, which is just outside Portland, Oregon. And the 92 Olympics happened, and I was watching them on TV and saw the gymnastics, was really super excited, and started flipping around. My mom was like, "You're not doing this in the house anymore. We got to figure out a place for you to do this."
Mm-hmm.
So she took me to a local gymnastics studio, which was, or I guess it's like a gym, right? A local gym, and it was a very traditional, like old Soviet Union style training. They're
Uh-huh.
Bulgarian coaches, and they forced us to take ballet. That was my first exposure with dance,
Mm-hmm.
in like a concentrated way, and I kind of felt like my legs knew it. Like my legs sort of knew turn out kind of intuitively.
Mm-hmm.
I understood the positions without too much fuss, kind
Mm-hmm.
of. And I liked that it was kind of decorative and a little bit softer than the gymnastics. And over time, gymnastics started to hurt
Mm-hmm.
more and more, of course. And at that point, little did I know, but at that point, dance wasn't hurting.
Yeah.
Uh, so I was like, I think I want to switch. I spent a year at the School of Oregon Ballet Theater,
Mm-hmm.
which was really, it was it's a ballet school that feeds into a ballet company. So it was pretty um, intense, strict. The whole thing, like we had to take flamenco and
Mm-hmm.
character class, and it was like the whole deal.
How old were you?
I was 8. I must have
Young.
been 8.
Young.
Yeah. So that was between 8 and 9 that year, like
And
wanting a different kind of feeling.
mm-hmm.
So we looked in Vancouver and found a place called Columbia Dance, and I started training there with my teacher Jan Hurst, and I was there from like age from 10 until I graduated.
And what did you do
From
there? What type of dance?
ballet, ballet, we did a lot of self choreography. That was how I first experienced getting to
Mm-hmm.
choreograph. We had some days, just like improv days, where we made up our own material or
Huh.
danced around. But we also had like a choreographic competition every year that people would apply for. It was really
Right.
fun. I had modern and like Luigi jazz, like traditional
Oh,
jazz training.
amazing. I'm sort of struck by what you're saying, and I knew all of this, but now I'm seeing it through a different lens of like our childhood dance training was like yin and yang, like just like not the same at all. And part of the mission of Dance Device Lab is plant those seeds and introduce these ideas to studios that may not have access to it. So I wonder if you can touch upon having composition class and learning how to choreograph and be a creative, thinking a little bit more outside the box as a young person, how that affected your sort of creative endeavors in or out of your professional dance career.
That's such a good thought, B. I feel especially when I look back with hindsight is that, you know, there's this idea of like familiarity that is a real comfort. Mm-hmm. And when you have an exposure to something, even if it's coming at you from a different way, when you re-meet it later in life, there's that feeling of like, oh, I've C-curved before. We talked about it in this way, but like my spine has been here before, and there's a comfort in just like returning to a place. Mm-hmm. I think that's really valuable. Mm-hmm. So to me, it reminds me of that thought that seeds get planted and they don't grow right away, of course. And sometimes you realize how valuable a piece of information was like 5 years later, 10 years later. And those like slow germinating bits of information, I think, are just as important as the things that click right away. Yeah, absolutely. So what I feel like, to kind of like wrap that thought up, is that you don't know what you're going to like, you don't know what you're going to need, you don't know what you're going to want down the road. And what was so impactful for me in my early training was just getting to, it was specific, but there was also a lot of opportunities to like sample sort of bass style, different things, to just have this thought that there are other routes. Mm-hmm. And it just made it easier to jump into those other things later in life, I feel like. So
you went to Juilliard. I mean, I know that because we were there together. But we were there together. Can you talk me from the time from when you went to Juilliard into your professional career, and sort of how that shaped your journey and what you went on to do?
Interesting for me. I felt super prepared when I got to NDT2, which was my first job after Juilliard. It felt really similar, actually, to life at school. Mm-hmm. Not only aesthetically, but also like the way the day was structured. My body felt like it felt used to that kind of rigor. What got harder for me later, and this was in particular like the shift from NDT into the Forsythe company, which really to me was the main difference was changing from being someone who was really good at being asked to do something and then figuring out how to do it, and like receiving information and then becoming that information, versus then needing to be the person who generated the information. Yeah. And there was a steep learning curve there in terms of like adjusting to, I mean, it really was, it was about self-trust and trusting that like the information I need is in my body and that I have something valuable to contribute. Yeah. So that was a big change.
It's interesting because dancers are often told to be chameleons, and you touched on it earlier of take as many things as you can, and that's what you did. You were interested in a lot of things, and something that I didn't understand and that is a cross-pollination in both concert dance, musical theater. It all happens in each world, that you have to be a creative contributor. The idea of a dancer in today's world of like, tell me what to do, I'm going to stand on 7. I mean, obviously there are different situations for that, but if you want to dance, that is it. You have to be a creative person. You have to be intelligent. You have to be professional. You have to be collaborative. And that took a long time for me to adjust to, like you said. And I wonder if there were any tools that you used to sort of become more comfortable with making these creative decisions. I think of, teachers around the country or studio owners that are trying to introduce these ideas and try to get younger dancers to sort of break their mold, to be less vulnerable, thinking independently. How did you overcome that?
Experiencing this sort of crisis of like, who am I? How do I want to contribute? Mm-hmm. It was directly related to being at the Forsythe company at that time, because the work I mean, it's rooted in improvisation. So you have to be really in touch with your own intuition and your own sense of movement in your body, but you also have to have a great awareness for what's happening around you and other people's choices, right? So it was like going back to school in a way and reevaluating the information in my body and how I wanted to access it. Mm-hmm. So I practiced that every day, all day long. I was asked to practice this like attention to self, and then figuring out how to turn that self-attention into something that I could relate to other people with. And I felt like the only way that I could get better at it was to keep doing it. And it was actually the last thing I wanted to do. I wanted to not do it anymore until I was good at it. Mm-hmm. And then I wanted to do it again. And that doesn't make any kind of sense. The only way to do it is to do it. Mm-hmm. And I feel like that was a pivotal takeaway for me. And it's something that I speak about now as a teacher a lot, is, you have to engage with the discomfort, and you have to engage with it physically. Yeah. We do this thing as dancers, and I think this is related to, the way we learn, thinking about how to please other people or how to achieve other people's ideas. We also try to conceptualize before we do it. We try to understand it in our heads before we understand it in our bodies. Mm-hmm. And that, I think, sometimes gets in our way. Mm-hmm. I think that there's also a lot of value in learning physically, mm-hmm. as opposed to learning thoughtfully. And in particular for the improvisational work, you can't imagine it. Right. You have to dance it. Right. And as you're dancing it, it reveals itself to you. Right. So, yeah, I feel like it took doing it and doing it a lot every day to get to know myself. And now I feel like I can access those parts of me on a dime. Mm-hmm. I can grab them because I know where they are now. Mm-hmm. But it took time and practice to find them. Sure.
And I love the idea of an improv practice, being, it is a personal experience because you're obviously using your body to do it yourself. But I love that idea of having a peripheral awareness of what is happening. And to me, that also could be a source of inspiration. You are doing something within your own body, and if you have gotten so in tune with that you can do that and open out, you can draw from many other things while you're doing it. So you started to touch upon it, but now that you are an educator primarily, I know you're still performing and creating, but you are doing so much beautiful work educating and working with dancers and passing on all this knowledge. I wonder if you could talk about your core values as an educator, or you started to go there about these tools that you like to implement in your classes.
That, you really develop, like you said, you develop your way with teaching based on the things that you absorb in your own experience. And I so appreciate you saying that, you observe that I've developed my own style, or that I've figured out my way of teaching. But honestly, I feel like my teaching is a combination of all of my mentors. I feel like I'm channeling.
No, I completely. I feel like I feel this way, and I think it is with people that do teach and share a lot, and need to draw. You're drawing from all those. I mean, you're an amalgamation of all of the things that you have done, and the beauty of education. And I think that's how you can shape a new way of thinking by putting a lot of pieces together. It's like making clay, or which you can shape and you can manipulate. And I think we have a responsibility to honor the people who really have
had an impact on our own experiences. And so I feel like that I look for ways to ask people to show up in my teaching. But something else that I've noticed, and again, it's because I've been fortunate to have now 2 years of really intense practice at CalArts. I feel like working there has helped me figure out how I want to teach also, which I'm really grateful for. And I teach ballet, and I think that ballet often gets a bad rap. But I think that there are so many great teachers inside of the technique that can help us be contemporary.
Yeah.
I just think we have to figure out how to access them. And so ideas of like coordination and musicality and organization in the body, all of that stuff that exists across the dance world. It's not specific to ballet. So when we're working on it in ballet, we're working on it in everything. And I don't think we only take ballet to become a ballerina. I think we can take ballet to work on dance.
Yeah. Something that is interesting, and I heard you say it, is that we are coming into a time where sort of the crossover of ballet and contemporary is becoming larger. And I think that people that are now educating have had those experiences a little fuller and can contemporize it for a sort of new generation, or sort of a different mass of people that don't have a rigorous ballet training, but there is this sort of like way to make it new and fresh that is engaging, even if you didn't grow up doing it or you don't want to do it, or, it still can be fun and fresh and important.
What I feel like was implemented in our training was the thought of taking responsibility for how you work through class and knowing how to work a class.
Yeah.
So that when you're on your own out there, you know how to guide yourself. And then I think you are taking control of your experience and not sort of being like bossed around by ballet, which it can do for some people and in some classes. And some people approach teaching ballet in that way, where like a fifth is a fifth, and a point is a point, and all that stuff. And that is a way of approaching the technique. I'm not here to knock it, but I do need to know how my body that isn't going to go into fifth anymore. I need to know how to work through that class in case that's the information that's coming at me. I'm not gonna close my fifth.
No. Do you have any sort of creative things you'd like to share? Is anything inspiring you right now? Music, dances you've seen, books you're reading?
My partner Jermaine and I, we've been watching old videos, like from the original folks, like Gail C. Kirkland, or like Meryl Ashley and Balanchine work. There are a couple of old NDT rehearsal videos that I have of like dancers from the original casts of like iconic Killian pieces. And what I think is super interesting about that, and this sort of circles back to what we talked about in the beginning of being choreographers telling you what to do, is that sometimes you actually watch the person who helped the choreographer figure out what they wanted to do. And that's like a marriage of equality right there in terms of creative input.
Totally.
Those people weren't necessarily being told what to do. Their instincts were informing the choreographer's instincts. And there's something so magical, I feel like, about seeing the person who implemented something. I think about it like when I watch these old NDT videos, I'm like, that's that move that then I was putting on into my body, that was foreign to my body, but so like it came from you. I'm watching you do it.
That's so interesting.
The lineage. So I feel like returning to the source right now has been really inspiring. Just to remember how we got where we got, and like how my interests have changed, especially with the Forsythe work, when you go back and you watch, because they were developing one idea for 30 years over there in Frankfurt, and when you go back and watch the work from the people who helped influence the work, you just see how we got where we got.
Yeah.
And I love knowing that it wasn't just like a poof out of nowhere, but that it was a series of events that were building blocks.
Yeah.
And I just feel comforted by that thought of it being a process.
It's so interesting because you never get to go back and watch you don't think of it, we always see the shows, we always see the end result, and going back and even just observing or thinking or sort of computing the process of it is interesting. Mm-hmm. Well, Spenser, thank you so much for your time and your energy and sharing, and I have had such a joy, watching you from afar. We don't get to be together that much, but your incredible experiences, you bring such a light and a positivity and a joy and a contagious, beautiful energy to everything that you do. And I'm so thankful that you're a part of this team, and I'm so happy to dive deeper and share. So thank you so much. And
thank you, Brandon.
Yeah. And I will talk to you soon and hopefully see you soon.
Okay. Sounds good.
Bye.
Bye.